Coming up next on Channel 9 News, 3 children are killed in a tragic Brooklyn fire. Tens of thousands of protesters take to the streets of Czechoslovakia. A suspect is arrested in the shooting of a New York City police officer. And Pat Collins takes a look at the new version of the TV series The Saint. Join us at 10.
In Czechoslovakia today, tens of thousands of people took to the streets in protest once again, despite the fact that the top communist leaders have resigned.
3 children died in Brooklyn. Apparently, a space heater was sparking. A smoke detector failed to work.
Little kids were screaming. They were saying, "Help me."
In El Salvador today, a helicopter was shot down. 2 CNN journalists were on board.
In sports, the Knicks, the Nets, the Rangers, and the Islanders are all in action.
Notre Dame plays Miami. It's one of the biggest rivalries of the decade.
We have the Nutcracker ballet, which is
movement. It was badly mistaken. At the biggest rally in the history of Czechoslovakia, 500,000 people braved frigid weather to send a message to the government. While there has been change, it hasn't gone far enough. Demonstrators cheered the news that more government officials had resigned, but speakers said too many old guard members remain in power. Indeed, Czechoslovakian television said the Communist Party had lost its credibility. Leading dissident Václav Havel said the government had gone back on its word and would not hold high-level talks with Civic Forum, the main opposition group. Former Prime Minister Alexander Dubček said the communist leadership had lost touch with its people and the crisis was deepening. Once again, Dubček basked in the adoration of the crowd, frustrated by 20 years of hardline rule by Soviet-backed governments. They might like Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev, but there is scant support for the communists in Prague.
They haven't results, any results, economical results, and people don't believe them.
Meanwhile, citizens eagerly read the walls to find out what's next in this fight for power. A planned general strike will take place on Monday. The tide is clearly turning in favor of those who want significant political change here. A government ministry, Education, declared its support for the strikers. And Czech television carried the rally live and said it would give complete coverage to Strike Day. Richard Roth, CNN, Prague.
There was blood in the skies over El Salvador today, and a freelance CNN journalist remains in serious but stable condition tonight in that country's capital. He was traveling by helicopter along with 2 Mexican journalists en route to a plane crash site when what is believed to have been rebel gunfire erupted. Now, Hugo Burgos, a cameraman for Cable News Network, was hit. He is the man you see on the right. The journalist on the left was also hit, but he was not seriously injured. The chopper landed safely, and Burgos was taken to a local hospital, that's him there, where he underwent surgery. The story the journalists were heading to cover was this plane crash. El Salvador's military showed reporters these weapons at the site, apparently meant for the rebels. They say 3 of the people on board were killed, and a 4th committed suicide when that plane went down east of San Salvador. Now, according to the military, a flight plan found in the wreckage shows the flight originated in Nicaragua. Of course, that country's leftist government has repeatedly denied arming Salvadoran rebels. Meanwhile, in South Korea tonight, investigators are trying to determine why a Korean airline plane failed to take off from the airport in Seoul and instead crashed at the end of the runway. Witnesses say they saw flames shooting from the plane just before it crashed, and then it broke into pieces. At least 19 of the 52 people on board were injured, including the pilot, and several more people suffered minor injuries.
In our area tonight, 3 small children are dead. They were killed when a fire swept through their Brooklyn home. And Chuck Gomez has that story.
I don't believe it happened to him.
Today there were tears in Brooklyn, grief over the deaths of 3 sleeping children, killed after a fire swept through their home shortly before dawn.
My boyfriend came out, the flames were shooting out of the window. He tried to get in, he heard the baby crying in the back of the house. He put his jacket over his head, kicked the door in. There was no possible way to get in. The mother was out in the front. She threw a garbage pail through the window, tried to get in. She was all bloodied up, you know, all cut and everything.
Meanwhile, the mother was outside screaming, April, April, my babies, somebody help me, my babies, April, April.
Killed were 8-month-old Jennifer Zuniga, her brother, 6-year-old Timothy Benitez, and a sister, 6-year-old Carla Benitez. An older sister, 13-year-old April Benitez, was carried to safety.
She said that, I think, the little kids were screaming, and they were saying, help me or something, I don't know. They were screaming, and then she got out,
The guy pulled her out, and she came outside.
The children's parents, Wanda and Jose Zuniga, are hospitalized tonight in critical condition. Mrs. Zuniga at Coney Island Hospital, Mr. Zuniga at New York Hospital Cornell Medical Center. Zuniga suffered second and third-degree burns over half his body when he ran back into the burning building to try to rescue his infant daughter.
I've put it all up to the Lord, and Christ is keeping me strong in this. It's really a tragedy the way this happened. And
neighbors say the mother of the 3 children had been complaining about a faulty space heater for some time. At Coney Island Hospital, where April Benitez is being treated for smoke inhalation, the teenager told officials a space heater had been sparking. Today, parts of the heater were left at the scene, and fire officials say a smoke detector that could have warned the family didn't have batteries. Amid the rubble, a charred doll, the children's stuffed toys, reminders of happier moments. But today, there were tears in Brooklyn and a grief that would not go away. Chuck Gomez, Channel 9 News.
And a little boy is dead tonight after playing a deadly game. 12-year-old Walter McMillan was playing on top of an elevator in a Harlem housing project. It's something the kids do for fun, according to residents
Some
there.
kids inside was telling me that, they was playing that elevator game, elevator action, they call it. And they left him there by himself, and he continued playing it.
They put a string between the elevator and the front door, wrap it around, and let the elevator go down one floor and pull it open and get on top of it.
And jump on top of it, and then what do they do?
And they ride up and down, wait for people to get in and play with it, knock the doors open and stuff.
We have a youth that was apparently playing on an elevator, a roof of an elevator, in which he accidentally stumbled and possibly electrocuted himself on the electrical wiring.
Well, we should add that the housing police say they try to patrol the buildings to keep the kids away from playing on those elevators. A Times Square shootout landed a New York City police officer and a bystander in the hospital. Officer Robert Picciano was walking up 43rd Street early this morning when he noticed a man flashing a gun. The police commissioner says the suspect fired without warning.
The officer ordered him to stop. The gunman fired a 9mm handgun, striking the officer in the left leg. The officer returned fire at the gunman, who fled on foot. During the exchange of gunfire, a civilian passerby was also struck in the right leg by a bullet.
Now, the suspected gunman is 19-year-old Leonard Goodman, who you see here. He is charged with assault and criminal possession of a weapon. Officer Picciano and 60-year-old Charles Wood were taken to Bellevue. The officer underwent surgery and is in stable condition tonight. Wood is also in stable condition. Neither suffered life-threatening injuries.
Even more gunshots in the news tonight. Gunfire ripped through a Harlem dance party this morning, wounding 4 teenagers. The dance at the Harlem Karate Institute was held to keep kids off the street and out of trouble. However, organizers believe somebody crashed the party and opened up on the crowd. 1 teenager was seriously hurt. 3 others suffered minor injuries. The gunman, he got away.
It is a tough test, but it has to be, says a spokesman for New York City's Department of Personnel. And with that, next month the city will resume its controversial physical test for firefighters, even though the health commissioner warns that it might cause kidney failure. Now, the test has already been suspended 3 times. The last time was over the summer when 5 candidates collapsed with kidney failure. But the city says no direct link has been found, and the test will resume, and the candidates must certify that they're healthy and have discussed the health commissioner's concerns with their doctor.
And coming up next tonight, Lebanon buries its murdered president, and his successor names a new government.
Also tonight, Pat Collins talks with the new Saint about the revival of that spy series.
And a holiday tradition is back in town. It's the Nutcracker Ballet. Stay with us.
Channel 9 News is sponsored by Nissan, built for the human race.
In Lebanon today, a funeral service was held for former President Rene Moawad. It was a day of mourning nationwide as Moawad was laid to rest. He was killed on Wednesday by a bomb in West Beirut after only 17 days in office. Meanwhile, his successor dissolved the cabinet today and named a new government in an effort, to end 14 years of civil war.
National elections in India are scheduled to wind up tomorrow. The elections there have been plagued by charges of fraud and violence. Today, 6 people died in clashes related to the voting. 107 people have been killed since Wednesday. The election will determine if Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi will stay in power. Many are calling this the most violent election in India's history. And in South Africa, church service turned deadly today. 2 people were killed after police fired tear gas in a crowded church hall. 4 leaders of the African National Congress had been scheduled to speak at that service.
Well, the Space Shuttle Discovery will be coming back to Earth just as it left, in darkness. The spacecraft blasted into orbit on Wednesday night on a secret mission to launch a spy satellite. NASA isn't commenting much, except to say that there have been no major problems. Discovery is scheduled to make a rare Sunday night landing at Edwards Air Force Base in California.